Hey y'all, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of A Gardener's Journey Homestead. I'm Barbara. I'm in Zone 7B in the state of Tennessee. And in today's video, we are doing some final prep for our big planting day. My dogs, y'all, they right here. I can't even move. But anyway, if you're new here, I'm so glad that you're here. And if you're not new here, I am glad that you're here. But we are getting ready. Like, my excitement is at a 10. My energy is a little bit less than 10. It's been a long day. I'm tired. But you know how sometimes you just got to get it done. And this is one of those days. We just have to get it done. So coming up, we're going to be planting the in-ground space, space number 2. We're going to have a big planting day, a whole day where my friend's gonna come out and they're gonna help me plant the garden. So if you're new here, that garden space that we're gonna be planting in the next few days is 40 by 100, so it's 4,000 square feet. We have 8 rows that are 100 feet long. And so today I'm gonna kind of take you through the process of how I plan and prep for that day. So one of the first things that I did was I've been working on my crop plan, and I just remembered I did not bring it down here. I will try to show you the crop plan. But basically what I have done is I've laid out what's going to go where in each row. So we do that ahead of time. Now I had a loose plan at the beginning of the seed starting season, but over the last couple of days I have gone back and refined the plan and made sure. So a couple of things that I thought about is, where are my trellises now, and could they stay there, or do they need to move based on how I'm rotating my crops? So for my husband's sake, to try to minimize all the different moving parts, I did my plan so where my trellises could stay in place, but of course the crops have rotated. You generally do not want to plant the same thing in the same place twice. Now there is going to be one space that I'm having to do that just because I could not work it out any other way. And we're going to continue to pray over it, and all will be well. All will be well. So that's one of the first things, is I laid out the crop plan and I kind of know what's going in which row. And I've kept in mind where my trellises are. So I know the things that are going to be, that need to be on the trellis, and where those are going to be. The other thing is that my watermelon patch is going to remain my watermelon patch. So watermelon's going to go right back there again. So again, I'm telling you one thing and doing that and another, because that's life. So like I said, sometimes do as I say, sometimes don't do as I do, because sometimes you just have to make it work for your garden. Ideally, you want to rotate your crops and not put them in the same place. That is ideal. That is what I try to do, and I do that 90-something% of the time. But for this in-ground space, because of the way we have the watermelons configured, they're going to go in the same exact space, because watermelons need a lot of space to grow. And what we did last year really worked with having 3 feet on each side where they could just be. Right, there was nothing up on them, and that's the only space in the garden that has that type of spacing. So in order for us to do something different, we would have had to have changed everything around, and y'all, we just not doing it. We're not doing it. So the watermelons will be in the same spot, but everything else is going to be rotating around. So I took in mind where the trellises were and planned accordingly, and then I put how many of each of that thing is going to be in that row. What I got to come out here and do is to count my holes. I think, based on what I remember last year, I think I have like 55 to 60-ish holes in each row. And right now my crop plan, I have it planned out to about 85%. I think I got at least 40 to 45 to 50 plants in each row, because I didn't want to go over the number, but I want to go out here and actually count and see how many holes I have. So I still have some places that I can plug up, because I think the number is 55 and not 50, but I plan to 50. And of course I have plants left over. We're going to fill in the spaces. So that's the first thing that I did. Let me take you out to the in-ground garden so you can see where we are in terms of getting the ground ready as well. And we'll go from there. Okay, so the boys are here helping to get this space ready. So my husband is going through tacking down all the paper that came up. My son is actually laying paper down in the spot where the paper blew up and got torn. Under that paper though, where he just laid it, are some weeds that we got to get up. That's the last spot that has weeds, so that spot will get ready. And then um, my husband's also, after he is making sure that all the paper is tacked down, we'll pull up the remaining weeds, get this new paper down right here where my son is, and tack that down. And you and I are going to go in the tunnel, and let me show you the next thing that I'm looking at to prep. So before we go in the tunnel, one of the other things that I did, so let me kind of explain this planting party. So if you're new here, I'm going to have some of my friends come out and they're going to help me plant the garden. This started like 3 years ago. They offered to come and help and say, hey, we're going to come and hang out with you and plant. And they fell in love with it, and they're like, let's make this a thing and let's do it every year. So this is the 3rd year that we're going to be doing it. So they're going to come out here and help me plant. They are not gardeners. They're literally just my friends coming out here to help me plant. And we have a good time. We cut up, we get the garden planted, and then we eat. So that is the plan. So it's not like it's other gardeners coming out here. They literally are like, okay, where does it go? How far am I supposed to dig? So it is also a teaching opportunity as well. And again, they interested, but not interested like that. You know what I mean? So one of the things is that I've already ordered gloves, because I remember the last year we didn't have, they brought their own gloves, but the gloves were too small. So I have gloves for everybody. I've also ordered some cheaper or inexpensive trowels. Those are going to be here tomorrow to make sure that everybody has one of those, because you know how it is. You have it and then you can't find it. But since we have I think we're going to have 4 people coming to help this time, then I wanted to make sure that everybody had a trowel and that everybody had a pair of gloves. So that's one. The other thing is, in this space, because we're not pulling up the fabric, the landscape fabric, we are amending at the whole site. So each hole is going to be amended. So we're going to fill up a wheelbarrow with compost and all the amendments. So I will also we're going to go in the tunnel and see how much compost we have and go ahead and get that process started as well. So that part will be ready. I have a wheelbarrow in the back of my house that I'm getting my husband to bring down. So we'll have 2 wheelbarrows. So I'm thinking, since we have 4 people, I'll probably put 2 people on one row, and then they can just kind of maybe meet in the middle, so to speak. Or I'll have the big wheelbarrow in the middle, and then maybe they can have an individual like bucket size where they can have their own individual bucket to put in each hole and then put the plant in there. And then we'll kind of go from there, is what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. The other thing is that now all the plants have to come from my house down here. I have probably at least 25 trays. That's going to be a feat within itself. And a lot of them were already down here, but I took them back up to the house because the weather, we had that cold snap. So I got to get all of those back down here. So I'm just showing you there's a lot to think about when it's time to start planting a garden of this size. And again, even if my friends weren't coming, this is all the things that I would have to do anyway. So it's not necessarily about I'm having a planting party. It's really I'm prepping the space to be ordered to plant in it, and to plant all the seedlings. So let's go in the tunnel. Let's see how many bags. No, while we're out here, let's count our holes and see how many holes we have in each row. Okay, so there's 58 holes in each row. So I was right. So there's 58 holes. I usually plan for about 55, because usually maybe like the last hole or the first hole is like super hard, or I'll put like a flower there at the beginning and at the end. So 55 is a safe number to bank on. So I think on my plan, I have it up to like between 45 and 50 each row. So I got some more to play with and to add in, which I think I should be plenty good. Now let's go in the tunnel. Let's see how much compost we have and see about how we're gonna get that situated and all that. Okay, so I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bags of compost, 1 bag of worm castings, 1.5 bag of worm castings. I thought I had more worm castings, so I may need to buy some more. It's hard for me to guess and gauge if 10 bags of compost will be enough. We're just putting it at the whole site. So obviously if I was broadcast sowing the compost, like if there was no landscape fabric we were putting on there, I know that 10 bags wouldn't be enough. But because we're putting it at the whole site, I mean, literally I mean, if I had to do a measurement, it's probably 1/4 of a cup in each hole, maybe. So we'll add the compost to a wheelbarrow. We'll add in some worm castings. I'm going to add in blood meal because that soil is low in nitrogen. And then I'm also going to add in some trace minerals, some azomite. I got to make sure that I have enough of that. I want to make sure that I have enough of the stuff so that when it's time, we're good to go and we're ready to go. So let me check and make sure that I have enough. Okay, I think I have enough combined with everything that I have together. I wish I had more trace minerals. I don't have time to probably get it in, and it's hard to find locally. I buy mine online, but I got a whole bunch of other stuff for amendments that kind of serve as dual purpose. So I think I'll be okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to actually harvest our cabbages that are good. That's what we're going to do. It is that time. So on a previous video, I showed you how many cabbages we had. I think we had like 6 or 7 that had formed heads. So we're going to go ahead, get those, harvest those, and then see what space that gives us. I got to get a shot of this because this is my biggest cabbage yet. Hold on. So many leaves. Do you see that? That is like a real, I just feel like the video is not doing it. You see my hand? That's like a real cabbage. This cabbage is like, look. I belong in the store. I belong in the grocery store, sis. That's what this cabbage is saying. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, y'all. I'm not about to harvest all these cabbages. I did too. Because as I was thinking, if I harvest them, I got to do something with them. I especially don't have enough fridge space to put all 8 in there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2, and one of them has a smaller cabbage head and a lot of leaves. I'll go ahead and do the leaves tonight, like chop them up, shred them, just see, because I've never done it before in terms of saving cabbage leaves and trying to cook them. So I wonder if I can put them through my food processor on shredder, if that would work. If not, I'm just going to chop these up and experiment with how this is supposed to work. I don't necessarily want to freeze dry. I've heard that somebody said they freeze dried cabbage and it did good, but when they cooked it, it wasn't as crunchy. And not that it's still crunchy when you cook it. I don't know. This is all an experiment, but I only did 2 because I had to remember we're not going to be planting this space when my friends come up here. It's all about that space there. And I really don't have the time to focus on processing all these cabbages and cutting them and shredding them up over the next 2 days. I got to get ready for this in-ground space. So when I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm biting off literally more than I can chew, and this is not the right timing. And as much as I want my tomatoes and cucumbers to go in here, it's not going to happen before this space out here. So let me just slow it down. Let me take these 2. Let me experiment with this, what y'all talking about, chopping it up and shredding it or whatever. See how much this makes in terms of the leaves. Save the cabbage heads to cook later. Matter of fact, I can cook those this weekend. But I'll do the leaves, see what that's like, and kind of just go from there. And then I can come out here one by one. Plus, when my friends come out here, if they want to harvest a cabbage to take home, that'll be a nice gift for them to do that. They can take one on home. And yeah, we might be able to make that work. So I'm going to pause on that piece. I'm trying to think, do I want to harvest these collard greens? Because, you know, once you harvest them, you got to do something with them. I don't think I'm ready for that. Let's go on to the next thing. Okay, so the boys have been busy working. They got that whole side tacked down. They said the weeds came up pretty easily. So he redid the paper. Did you overlap it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to overlap it instead of trying to butt it up. So the only part we got left now is this right here. Remember, we had left this open because I thought I was going to do potatoes. Like Yukon Gold potatoes and red Pontiac russets. No potatoes this year. No potatoes. That was a hard decision to make about no potatoes, but I couldn't get it done. And so sometimes it's like that. I'm just going to have to buy potatoes because I literally just could not get it done. It was right before, when it needed to be planted, it was right before my foot surgery. And then I also needed to find straw or hay to cover it up. And I could never find anything that I felt like was weed free. So it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Okay, so what you see me doing here is I'm starting to just do a couple of plants. Before we have the party and my friends come, I want to just test the soil, see how much compost to put in. I just always like to do it myself before I'm going to teach it or show somebody else how to do it. So I am just taking 2 plants. This is going to be the pepper row that are sweet peppers. And so you see me just getting some of the compost and the amendments. I'm putting the plant in there. One thing that I'm surprised about is that the soil was not as soft. I shouldn't say workable. It was not as soft as I anticipated it being, seeing as how we just planted in it last season. It seems like last time it was a little bit easier to dig. So I put that one in, and then I'm going to do another one right after that. So I go to the next hole. I got to pull up this weed first. You know, we went through and did all the weeds about a week ago, and some of them have already grown back just that fast. But once we get these plants in here, we should be pretty good on the weeds, because the plant will take up the whole space in the hole. So once the season gets going, we deal very little with weeds, which is great. So I'm putting it in, making sure that I know, and that didn't take much compost. I mean, that's probably less than a fourth or whatever to put in. So I'm wrapping up my stuff, and now I know, okay, we got 2 plants in. I'm backfilling this one, and that way I'll be able to kind of show them when they get here how to do it, what to do, and we can just get moving. Now we're in the house, and we're taking the 2 cabbages that we harvested, and you see me chopping up. So mainly I took the outer leaves. I'm gonna chop them and put them in the freezer like you guys said. I did not blanch these. I didn't see the blanching comments until after I did this. So I'm chopping up the cabbage leaves. You see my bag over to the right, the freezer bag that I'm gonna put them in. And I'll tell you that I did cook some of these right away with the main cabbage head, and they were bitter. The leaves part was bitter. The cabbage part was fine, tasted awesome, but the leaves part were bitter. So I'm not quite sure if that's supposed to be that way, because like I said, I've never kept the leaves and kept them to use to cook as greens. So let me know if that's common or if that's just something particular, and maybe that means something I did wrong with the cabbage, or if the blanching would have done better. But you just see me keep chopping. I get them all, and I get like a bag full of the cabbage green leaves. Then after that, I chop up the cabbage, and I actually cook the cabbage right then. Take some of these leaves out of the freezer bag to mix in with the cabbage to see what it tastes like. So that is what you see me doing here. A final piece of the prep. Okay guys, so you saw me do the cabbage that you guys had recommended. So it's been a couple of days. I've been shooting this video over a couple of days. So I did the cabbage and did the leaves off those 2 cabbages that we harvested. I actually cooked cabbage that same day, the actual cabbage head, and then I put some of the leaves in there. Now the leaf part was bitter. And so is that supposed to be? Now the actual cabbage part that I cooked was great, but I mixed in the leaves too, and the leaves were bitter. So I wonder if I was supposed to blanch it, but blanching doesn't usually take away the bitterness. Blanching usually helps retain the nutrients and helps it to cook good once you freeze it. So y'all let me know if the cabbage leaves are supposed to be bitter, or does that mean something different? I don't know. But the last 2 things we gotta do to prep for the big planting day is I soaked the beans that we're going to direct sow. So for the last 12 weeks, we've been starting seeds each and every week, but I have not talked a lot about direct sowing. So the things that I'm going to direct sow are my green beans and my purple hull peas, and that's pretty much it. Everything else we've started. So one of the things that I found is that if you soak your beans the night before, they germinate a lot quicker. So I did that, and so you can see here I'm doing this, which I've done for the last 2 years. It does great in my zone. It loves heat. These are purple hull peas. I've also done black eyed peas. They're all the same in terms of growth habit and all that. So I'm doing those, and I soak those. So you can see they're soaked here. Then I'm trying a new one from row 7 called the Fast Lady Northern Southern Pea. It's a cow pea as well. So I soaked those. Those are more white. You can see it there. I'll show you that way. And then I'm doing, for the first time, I'm doing a pole green bean. I've only done bush green beans. I usually do the Blue Lake, and it has done well for me. 1 year I think I did Provider. I did not like that one whatsoever. But this year I'm going to do a pole bean, and I'm excited about that. So I'm doing the Kentucky Wonder pole bean. Let me know if you've done this one before, if it's done well. I'm also going to do some bush green beans, but I'm going to do those later. So I'm excited about that. So those I soaked, you can see. So now I'm just going to put these, I drain them. Then I'm going to put them in a sandwich bag with the tag that goes in there. So when my friends come over to plant, they know what's what. And what I'll probably do is start off with this row because it's easiest direct sow. And that'll be a good, you know, teaching, hey, 1 inch below the soil, and bam, 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 we can direct sow those seeds and then move on to the plants. Is what I think I'm going to do. I want to show you some other new things that I'm doing this year. One is center cut squash. This was from row 7. It grows really long and it needs a trellis to grow. I've heard it's really good and it grows really big. I'm only going to do 2 plants of this because I've never done it before. And yeah, I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. So I'm only going to do 2 plants. Another pole bean that I'm going to do is this. I've had these seeds. So this, I mean, you buy seeds, you may not use them that season, but you'll use them another season. Are these right here? I probably had these a couple of years. This is Triunfo Violetta. I'm just doing that because of the color and the beauty. I think I've heard that when you cook these, they turn green. Y'all chime in. If you've ever done these, let me know, because I don't know that I want to eat purple green beans, but I figured it'd be pretty outside. We're going to try. We're only going to do a couple. And then this one right here is a pole bean called Scarlet Emperor. And I might just do one of these. This one says that it attracts hummingbirds and pollinators. I don't know how the green beans taste, but the red flowers are pretty. So I may only do one of these and see what happens. Maybe 2 in case one doesn't germinate. So let me know if you've done this one. So that's some new stuff that I'm trying that's going to be in the row with the peas. So we got that soaked. We're going to put them in bags. We'll be ready to go. And then the other last thing that I worked on last night that I didn't show on video because it was kind of hard to show was just the rest of my crop plan. So I started off with, let me see if I can show you. And I've shown this before in terms of how I do my crop plan, but this is how I started it. So you can see my in-ground garden planting space. I have 8 rows and I've kind of mapped out where everyone goes. And you can see here at the bottom, I have a T. Those are the rows that have the trellises in them. So I've kind of mapped out, again, what can go in that row. Again, I try to be very organized, efficient, and intentional when I'm growing food. Because, 1, I have a big space that I have to maintain. And so that's just going to help it go a lot easier. Even if it was just me out here doing, like I didn't do this for my friends. It's going to help, but I do this when it was just me planting my garden because that's what helps me. And so what I did was I just took that I had kind of drafted and handwritten, and then I just typed it up. And so they will each get a copy of this, and they'll be kind of assigned a row, so to speak. So that way you know, hey, I got row 3 and I'm doing corn or whatever. And I also have the number of how many they're going to put in each one. Hopefully you can see that. I'll cover my face for a second. Hopefully you can see that. But basically, so for example, in row 6 is a spicy pepper row. I have jalapenos. We're putting 15 jalapenos in that row. Remember, we counted, and I have 55 holes. So again, this is still short some, and that's okay because I'll intersperse it with flowers, herbs, and things like that. But this will give them a good guide of what's supposed to go in each row. And they'll know, even if they have a whole tray of jalapenos of 30, only plant 15, right? And that way I'll know what's in my rows. And I'm not necessarily particular that it has to be jalapenos and then the cayenne. It could be cayenne. I'm not particular about that, but what's in the row and the amount, I want it to be what's on this paper. That way I can remember what's what. So y'all, that's it. That is my planning process for the planning party. So wish us, send us all the prayers and all of that. Obviously I will video the footage and let you see us actually planting out, but this is us getting ready for the big planting day to plant space number 2, which is our in-ground garden. Thank you guys for rocking with me and for joining me. And I know if you're in my zone, you may be planting. I know some of you guys wait till after Mother's Day. I can't wait for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not even gonna be in town that weekend. 2, these plants need a home. I'm tired of watering. They gotta get out of my house. And this is the day I have help. So we're gonna plant this garden just shortly. So thank you guys for joining me. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Remember, gardening is a journey. Let's grow together. I'll see you next time, friend.